Welcome to Inside East African Politics. Okay,
Yep.
let's unpack this deep dive into this situation in Sudan. We're really going to focus today on one specific external player, Eritrea.
Right. Sometimes seen as maybe a bit quieter, but the involvement seems pretty clear and active when you dig in.
Exactly. So our aim here is to get straight to, what Eritrea is actually doing and the why behind it and what it all means for the conflict and, frankly, the wider region.
It's a good example of how actors, maybe not always in the headlines, can still shape things significantly.
Absolutely. So first off, just a quick reset on the main conflict itself. We're talking about that intense fighting between the Sudanese Armed Forces, the SF, and the Rapid Support Forces, RSF.
Which really kicked off, April 2023, after that post-Bashir transition kind of fell apart?
Yeah, and the humanitarian side is just staggering.
Oh, it's immense. You're looking at nearly 13 million people displaced by May 2025. It's actually the world's largest displacement crisis right now.
And like you said, it's not just contained within Sudan's borders, is it?
Not at all. It's deeply tangled up with all the regional power plays, especially around the Red Sea, which is so critical.
We see other players involved, the UAE, Egypt, Russia, China, Turkey. It makes Sudan feel a bit like a proxy battleground sometimes.
Definitely. And Eritrea's position on the Red Sea coast gives it, a natural stake in what happens there, adds another layer to that whole complex picture.
So let's get specific then. What is Eritrea actually doing on the ground?
Well, the main thing is supporting the SAF and also some allied groups in eastern Sudan. And this isn't just, diplomatic nods.
You mean actual tangible support?
Yes, direct military aid. For instance, back in May 2025, when the RSF hit Port Sudan with drones, safe warplanes actually operated out of Eritrean airports for a time.
Wow. Okay, so providing safe haven for air assets.
Exactly. And there are reports, indications at least, of Eritrean warships deployed along the Sudanese coast, too. Even Hemedti, the RSF leader, has openly accused Eritrea of supplying the SF with gear and fighters.
Okay, so direct military assistance is one piece. What else?
The other major part is sponsoring and training various armed groups within eastern Sudan.
How does that work? Leveraging local connections.
Precisely. They tap into those deep historical and ethnic ties across the border, particularly with groups like the Beni Amer and the Beja peoples.
So you have specific groups being backed.
Yeah, like the Eastern Sudan Liberation Forces. Estimates put them around 2,000 fighters, mostly from Beni Amer and Habab communities.
Okay.
Eritrea seems to be fully sponsoring and training them.
That sounds very strategic, creating local forces aligned with the SF, essentially.
It looks that way, building up allies on the ground in that crucial eastern region.
So what's the motivation here? What's driving Eritrea's actions? It feels like it goes deeper than just the current fight.
Oh, absolutely. History plays a big part. Those cross-border ethnic links we mentioned, they're very real and provide leverage. Plus, Asmara has a history here, right? They hosted Sudanese opposition groups back in the 90s.
Right, I remember that. And the Red Sea must be a huge factor for them.
Vital. Eritrea's coastline is incredibly strategic. They naturally want influence in that maritime space. And this connects directly to their, let's call it an intense rivalry with Ethiopia.
Ah, yes, Ethiopia's push for sea access. That's a constant point of tension.
Exactly. Addis Ababa is definitely watching these closer Eritrea ties with considerable unease.
And what about internal factors in Eritrea, President Afwerki's own calculus?
Some analysis suggests it ties into regime preservation. It sounds maybe counterintuitive, but the thinking could be that regional instability actually benefits his hold on power, justifies control, or distracts. Creating a sort of security belt in eastern Sudan fits this too.
That's a really complex set of drivers. So let's talk implications. What does all this mean for Sudan itself?
Well, arming and training tribal militias in the east, that seriously deepens the militarization there. There's a real risk it could escalate the conflict beyond SFF versus RSF into a broader, messier tribal war.
Which could lead to fragmentation.
Potentially, yes. It makes holding the country together much harder.
And for the region.
It definitely heightens tensions, especially with Ethiopia. You get whispers and fears about a wider conflict. It also makes peace efforts trickier. Eritrea isn't exactly enthusiastic about mediation, and actively backing one side complicates diplomacy.
And tragically, it just pours fuel on that already horrific humanitarian fire.
Absolutely. More fighting means more displacement, more suffering. These external actions have very real, very grim consequences for ordinary people.
So wrapping this up, what does this mean for you, listening? I think it shows that when you look at the Sudan conflict, you really have to understand these external players like Eritrea.
You need to see their motivations, the history, the strategy, how they use geography and local ties. It's essential to grasp the whole picture.
It really brings up a tough question, doesn't it? In these kinds of conflicts, fueled by so many outside interests, how do we actually manage to prioritize peace?
And the urgent humanitarian needs of the millions caught in the middle. It's a critical question.
Definitely something to think about. That's our deep dive into this complex piece of the Sudan puzzle for today.